My father refused to pay my tuition because I chose to be a nurse. I'd rather have no daughter than one who wears a nurse's uniform, he told me. To him, nursing was beneath our family name. He called me stubborn, ungrateful, a disappointment to everything he'd built. Then one morning my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Please come home. Something's happened to your dad. Followed by 25 missed calls. Hi, I'm Paige Preston, a 27-year-old nurse, and I've just graduated from the Virginia Commonwealth University School of Nursing, the same choice that made my father turn his back on me. Arthur Preston, my father, was a retired colonel, a man who wore his medals like armor and his pride like a crown. Growing up, I watched him command respect in every room he entered. His posture was rigid, his handshake firm, his voice carved from stone. When he spoke, people listened, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. To him, the Preston family name wasn't just a name. It was a legacy, a reputation built over decades. Something to be protected, polished, displayed. He used to say, when people ask what our children do, I want to hear attorney, engineer, or doctor, not nurse. There's a difference in the way people treat you. I remember sitting at the dinner table when I was 16, watching him lecture about prestige, about how certain professions carried weight and others were serviceable. Necessary, yes, but not respectable. My mother would nod along, her fork moving delicately across her plate, her silence a form of agreement. He wasn't cruel the way villains in movies are cruel. No shouting, no violence, no raised fists. His cruelty was cold, surgical, disguised as discipline and wisdom. When my younger sister Cindy said she wanted to study law, his face lit up. Actually lit up. I saw pride in his eyes that I'd been chasing my whole life. He wrote the tuition check without hesitation, bragged to his colleagues at the officers' club about how his youngest daughter would join a prestigious firm someday, maybe even become a judge. But when I told him I wanted to be a nurse, silence. The kind of silence that feels like falling. Then, in that calm, measured voice he used when giving orders to subordinates, Paige, that's not the path for a Preston. You're smarter than that. Study law like your sister. Be something people respect. I tried to explain. I told him about the volunteer work I'd done at the senior center, how I'd held Mrs. Patterson's hand when she was scared before surgery, how her daughter hugged me afterward and said I had a gift. He waved his hand dismissively. Compassion doesn't pay bills, Paige. Titles do. My mother stood beside him. As always, a shadow agreeing with the sun. Listen to your father, sweetheart. Law will bring respect. Nursing won't. Think about your future. Think about the family. That was the day I realized love in my house had conditions. It wasn't given freely. It was earned, distributed based on how well you reflected the family image. And I was reflecting the wrong thing. I applied to Virginia Commonwealth University School of Nursing anyway, against his wishes, against his warnings, against the disappointed silence that followed me around the house like a ghost. The day my acceptance letter arrived, I showed it to him with trembling hands. Some foolish part of me still hoped he'd be proud. He glanced at it, set it down on the kitchen counter, walked away. No congratulations. No acknowledgement. Just the sound of his footsteps retreating down the hall. Later, he would tell me that if I chose to go ahead with nursing, then I was on my own. I went against his wishes and followed my dreams. Started my courses. And worked hard. Part-time jobs became my lifeline. Early mornings at a cafe where I memorized orders and forced smiles while my feet ached. Late nights cataloging old medical journals at the university library, the smell of old paper and silence, my only companions. I ate instant noodles until I couldn't stand the taste anymore. Counted coins in my drawer like they were gold. Watched other students complain about their parents not sending enough money while I scraped together every dollar myself, calculating how many shifts I needed to cover rent, books, food. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. I was making it. Barely, but I was. By my third year, I was exhausted down to my bones. But I was still standing, still fighting, until the shocking email arrived. I was in the library, reviewing pharmacology notes, when my phone pinged. Your account balance must be settled by end of next month, or your enrollment will be administratively dropped. My stomach churned. My tuition bill was $7,700. I had saved every cent, worked every available shift, skipped meals to save money. But I was still short $4,000. It might as well have been $4 million. $4,000 stood between me and my future. I stared at that email until my vision blurred. My hands shook as I picked up the phone. I had no one else to turn to but my father. I didn't want to call him. Pride told me not to, but desperation was louder than pride. The phone rang 3 times. When he answered, his voice was brisk, distracted. Dad, please. I've been working double shifts to pay my tuition, but I'm still $4,000 short. If I don't pay by next month, I'll be dropped from the program. Everything I've worked for will be gone. Silence on the other end. Then his tone came, clipped and formal. The same tone he used when he commanded soldiers who disappointed him. Paige, I already sent money to Cindy this month. She's on a more important path. One that will bring honor to this family. I can't fund 2 educations, and I've chosen to invest in the one that matters. The words hit me like a physical blow. But Dad, this is my future. I'll pay you back, I promise. I'll sign anything you want. Just please. I said no, Paige. He cut me off. Don't disturb me again with this nonsense. You made your choice. Now live with it. He hung up. The dial tone echoed in my ear. I sat there, phone pressed to my cheek, feeling something inside me crack. I called my mother next. Maybe she'd understand. Maybe she'd soften him and fight for me the way mothers are supposed to. Her voice was gentle when she answered, almost pitying. Sweetheart, I heard the conversation. Your father told me you called. Mom, please. I need help. I've done everything I can. I just need this one thing. She didn't let me finish before interrupting. Your father is right, Paige. Maybe it's time you reconsider law. It's not too late. You could transfer, start fresh. We'd support that decision. So you'll only support me if I give up on what I want. She sighed. A soft, tired sound. We're supporting what's best for you, even if you can't see it yet. That night, I sat on my dorm bed staring at my uniform hanging from a nail on the wall. And I cried quietly into my hands. The kind of crying where you can't make noise because you don't want your roommate in the next room to hear how broken you are. The kind where your chest heaves silently and tears soak through your fingers. I felt abandoned, worthless, like my dreams were too small to matter. Before I go on, I'd really love to know where you're listening from. Tell me in the comments, and subscribe if you're enjoying the story so far and don't support what my father did. 1 week passed. Then 2. I picked up extra shifts, applied for emergency loans, filled out scholarship applications until my eyes burned. Nothing came through. The deadline loomed closer. I could feel my future slipping through my fingers like sand. One night, exhausted beyond words, I fell asleep at my library desk during my cataloging shift, my head resting on an open anatomy book, the pages blurring beneath my cheek. A soft voice woke me up. You'll hurt your neck like that. I looked up, disoriented. It was Laura, a psychology student I'd seen around campus, but never spoken to. She had dark curly hair pulled back in a messy bun and kind eyes. The kind that actually saw you. She was holding 2 cups of coffee. She slid one across the desk toward me. You've been working yourself to the bone. I see you here every night. Same desperate look. What's going on? I should have brushed her off. Should have said I was fine. But something in her voice made me open up. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe I just needed someone, anyone, to care. I told her everything. About the tuition crisis. About my father's rejection. About the email that haunted me every time I closed my eyes. About feeling like I was drowning and no one cared enough to throw me a rope. Laura listened. She didn't interrupt. Didn't offer empty platitudes. Didn't judge. She just nodded, her eyes steady on mine. When I finished, she reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. "You deserve better than this," she said quietly. "You're strong. You're going to make it. I can see it." I thanked her for the coffee. For listening. We spent the next 30 minutes getting to know each other. We clicked like we had been best friends for a long time. We exchanged numbers. I didn't expect to see her again. People say kind things. Then they move on. But 4 days later, Laura called. Her voice was breathless with excitement. "Paige, I told my parents about you. About your situation. They want to help. They're sending you the money for your tuition." I froze. My heart stopped. Started again. "Laura, I can't. I can't accept that. I don't even know them." "You're not accepting charity, Paige. You're accepting faith. My parents believe in people who don't give up. They said anyone who works as hard as you deserves a chance." "Why would they do this? They don't even know me," I queried. "Because that's what good people do. They help when they can. No strings. No conditions. Just faith," she said via a happy voice. That night, when the transfer came through, I checked my bank account 3 times to make sure it was real. $4,000. Exactly what I needed. From strangers who believed in me more than my own father did. I cried harder than I ever had, not from pain. From the overwhelming realization that kindness still existed in the world. Someone believed in me. Someone who wasn't family. 2 weeks later, Laura invited me for dinner with her parents. I was nervous. I'd worn my nicest sweater, rehearsed thank yous in my head during the entire drive. But when I stepped into their home, all my anxiety melted away. Their house radiated warmth. Not expensive warmth, but real warmth. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. Glasses clinked. Soft jazz played in the background. The smell of roasted chicken and herbs filled the air. Laura's father, Mr. Brennan, a calm man with kind eyes and graying temples, shook my hand firmly. "Laura tells us you're the hardest worker she's met. You remind us of what integrity looks like. That's rare these days." Her mother, a woman with gentle smile lines around her eyes, pulled me into a hug. "You can always see us as family, dear. Real family stands with you when others won't. And we're here whenever you need us." That night, I didn't feel like an outsider. For the first time in years, I felt seen, valued, wanted. Over dinner, Laura told me about a nursing scholarship she'd heard about. She'd already printed out the application and highlighted the requirements. "You're perfect for this. Apply. Promise me you'll apply." When I got back to school, I worked tirelessly on that scholarship essay. Stayed up late revising, pouring my heart onto the page. Often battling the voice in my head that sounded exactly like my father. "Nursing isn't prestigious. You're wasting your potential. You'll regret this." But I pushed through. When the award letter arrived 2 months later, Laura screamed louder than I did. She grabbed my hands, and we jumped around her dorm room like children. Out of excitement, I called my family that evening, hoping even then for a sliver of pride, for acknowledgement. My father answered. I told him about the scholarship. His reply came short, measured. "Scholarships are good, Paige. They save money. But if it's for nursing, it's not really an achievement. It's just practical." His words hit me like a brick. I dropped the phone after he hung up and stared blankly for 5 minutes. Instantly, something shifted inside me. A door closed. A weight lifted. That was the moment I stopped chasing their approval. I decided something quietly, firmly. I had no parents. 18 months later, I graduated with honors. The ceremony was beautiful. I had sent an invite to my parents, but they didn't show up. When my name was called, I walked across the stage with pride. Laura and her parents cheered from the audience, holding a sign that said, "We're proud of you, Paige." I graduated with honors. By then, a few hospitals had already reached out with offers. I chose a hospital in Richmond, close enough for my parents to know I'd made it, but far enough that they couldn't take credit for it. The work was demanding, but it filled me with purpose. Each shift, I cared for patients who trusted me with their lives. This made me feel special. I built a small, peaceful life. A studio apartment with plants on the windowsill. A routine that felt like mine. Meanwhile, Cindy's life crumbled. She'd been spending tuition money on parties, designer bags, a reckless boyfriend who treated her like an ATM. When she got expelled in her third year, my father quietly covered it up. Told relatives she was taking time off to explore opportunities. He gave her money from his savings to start a business. Some vague consulting firm that existed only on paper. It failed within 6 months. She gave the rest of the money to the boyfriend, who vanished with it, blocked her number, and moved to another state. The retirement fund my father had built over 30 years gone. Cindy showed no remorse. She stopped calling them, blamed them for ruining her life, for pressuring her into law. And my father, the man who'd built his identity on control and respect, watched his world collapse. 8 months after I graduated, my phone buzzed during a night shift. I was busy at the time and couldn't attend to it. When I picked up the phone, I saw a text. It was from my mother. "Please come home. Something's happened to your dad." Followed by 25 missed calls. I called her immediately. Her voice cracked, barely recognizable. "Paige, your father's had a stroke. He collapsed this morning. We're at the hospital. It's bad." I felt my stomach twist. From the complicated mess of emotions you feel when someone who hurt you is suddenly vulnerable. "How bad?" I asked. "He can't move his left side. Can't speak clearly. The doctors say, they say he'll need full-time care." The same man who mocked my career now depended on the very profession he dismissed. The irony was almost poetic. Almost. "Where's Cindy?" I asked. My mother's voice broke. "She won't come." She screamed at me over the phone when I called her this morning. Said we destroyed her life, and she owes us nothing. I told my mother I would come over before the end of the week. Hung up. Stood in the hospital hallway staring at the sterile, white walls. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let them face the consequences of their choices the way I'd face mine. But another part of me, the part that became a nurse, couldn't turn away from someone suffering, even if that someone was him. When I finally went home to Silver Spring 2 days later, I barely recognized him. Arthur Preston, the colonel, the man whose presence commanded rooms. Now he was frail, small, his face slack on one side, his eyes struggling to focus. When he saw me, he whispered my name. It sounded like a question, like he couldn't believe I'd come. Tears filled my mother's eyes. "Paige, we were wrong," she said softly, her voice trembling. "About everything. We were so wrong. Please help us. We don't know what to do." I stood there in that living room, looking at the people who'd raised me, who'd fed me, sheltered me, and then abandoned me when I needed them most. I could have walked away, could have let the bitterness win, but I didn't. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll arrange care. I'll make sure he's taken care of properly." She sobbed uncontrollably. I hired a full-time nurse for my father's care. Someone experienced, compassionate, and professional. I paid every bill, set up a schedule, made sure he had everything he needed. But I kept my distance. I visited once a week. Brief visits. Kind but detached. One morning when I visited, the nurse wheeled him into the sunlight on the back porch. My father looked up at me. His eyes were clearer that day, more present. "Paige," he whispered, struggling with the words. His mouth was twisted to the side. I was proud in the wrong way. proud of the wrong things. He spoke with difficulty. I looked at him and felt pity. It's okay, Dad. Just rest and allow the nurse to take good care of you. I placed my hand on his left shoulder and gently squeezed it. Months passed. My father's health stabilized. He regained some movement, learned to speak more clearly. My mother sent long letters of apology, pages and pages of regret, of wishing she'd been braver, of acknowledging the ways she'd failed me. I had already forgiven them. In helping my father survive, I found closure. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, that you can wish someone well from a distance. Sometimes forgiveness isn't about reunion. It's about release. If your parents ever made you feel unseen because your dreams didn't fit their image, leave a broken heart in the comments so I know I'm not alone. I learned something through all of this. Validation from others fades. It's fragile. But the dignity of earning your place, of building something with your own hands, of surviving when everyone said you wouldn't, that never fades. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up when your world is collapsing, by who believes in you when you can barely believe in yourself. Laura and her parents taught me that. They showed me what real family looks like. And to every parent watching this, I want you to remember something. Pride fades. Titles fade. Reputations crumble. But love is the only legacy worth leaving. The way you make your children feel will stay with them long after you're gone. Make sure it's something worth remembering. Thank you for listening to my story, and if you enjoyed it, click the subscribe button to be notified of my next story.